All right.
That's incredible.
Welcome
Hello.
back. This is Phantom and Martel. We're going to go over Start Wisdom Booklet 10.
What
Um,
up?
but first, uh, we had a question come in chat right after I'd already hit end stream last week.
Oh yeah.
And so I wanted to go over that real quick. And so it was Panda asked, how do you think this affected your view of people with disabilities? And I've been thinking about that this week.
I'm
Uh,
curious what you had.
yeah. And like I would say, I'm not sure. I can't remember what the context of what they said disabilities were. I think it was like, something. There were the three options, and that was one of the things for disabilities was one of those three options. What was it? Punishment or correction, um, glory of God, and death were the three options for some kind of sickness, and disabilities was kind of rolled into that.
Right.
And I never, I never thought that disabilities were any of that. Like that, just it was a thing that happened to people. But um, I would say that I wasn't completely immune to the idea that disabilities were some kind of defect. Um, there's that. How about you, Martel?
Um so I as a youth, I missed the whole like sickness under this, sickness under that thing, but I definitely picked up on like this is God's plan. And um for the audience members or the chat or whatever, um, I have had a horrific back injury since 2004 when I got rear-ended in a car I was a passenger in. And I spent probably the first 10, 15 years wondering what I did wrong.
So from 2004 to 2019.
Um, no, like 2004 to 2015.
Oh, okay.
Probably just like wondering what did I do wrong to deserve this?
Hmm.
Like why is this God's plan for me? Why does God want me to suffer?
Right.
Because like if all things are God's plan, then this must be part of the divine plan. Like there is some glory, some or some necessity, or maybe I'm so prideful that I must be humbled in this way.
Hmm. That's interesting because like I was a very weird Christian, I would say, because
I mean,
I believed in like the Bible. I believed the Bible was true, but I didn't believe God actually like intervened in the world. Not
mhm,
really. I believed God was more of a deist God.
sure, that
Um,
that that definitely makes more sense.
and so like when bad things happened, I never attributed it to anything that God did or didn't do, or any part of God's plan. So interesting.
Well, um, man, I don't know why we had such a different take on this stuff later in life.
Yeah, it's been eye opening for me to see be talking with you about this and just go over like like where you and I diverged, even being brought up in the same household, basically the same way. How much you and I diverged has been
Right.
very eye opening to me, and it's I don't it's made me question a lot of like my past, like why did it go this way for me and this that way for you.
Well, I mean, let us not quibble. You are smarter than me.
No, not really.
Yes, you are. Come on.
uh Man, like
Like I
I,
was in third grade before I figured out that LOAD comma 8 comma 1 star dot star was words.
right, but also like you could watch a movie once and quote it the whole movie, and I can watch a movie 100 times and not be able to quote it.
Right. But that's because it was very important for me not to get yelled at. That's a trauma response.
Well, yeah, maybe.
that's that's self-preservation, not innate intelligence. And also, despite what the American school system would have you believe, being able to repeat things isn't smart.
Uh, Being able to recall details like that is smart.
Being able
That's
to
that.
recall details might be smart, but being able to remember the exact words someone says is just pedantic.
It's still smart. It's still an intelligence thing. Anyway, do you want to go ahead and get into this book?
Um, well, I wanted to say, so how did you see if we can make it a little more personal? How did you think about my disability as relates to faith?
Your disability. You mean the back thing?
Yeah. Or do you just not think of me as disabled?
Well, I mean, I don't think of you as disabled. Um, but also like that as relates to faith, like it was just a thing that happened. There faith wasn't involved in it.
Well, it's neat that you don't think of me as disabled.
Yeah, I mean, so like, I mean, if you think of Papa, you
Yeah.
know, he had a back problem too. I mean, it to me, the fact that we have a genetic disposition towards back problems, I think, because like several of our uncles had back problems and all. Um, so to me, that's just like it's a genetic thing,
I
and
mean, there's also that like maybe I shouldn't have been working hard labor since I was 12.
that's true. That could
Like
be a factor for sure.
just throwing it out there. Um, but huh. Because I often think about like what could my life have been if I hadn't been, hampered with this crap.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's a normal thing. All of us, I think everyone wonders, you know, what the road not taken would have been like if you'd taken it.
Yeah, I do like to think about the road not taken. Okay, I was just curious, because we never really talked about that. Um, but you didn't think it was my fault at all, or like somehow uh, I was paying for those times I drank as a teenager or something.
No,
I mean, obviously not, but that was a legit thought that I had. Like, oh, I deserve this.
that's that is the idea that you were made to think that is disgusting to me.
Isn't it bullshit?
It is. Um,
Sorry.
yeah.
Hey, it's captive desk. All right, but yeah, we can start whenever
All
you'd
right.
like.
All right. So, well, let's start with a verse. The verse for this book is Matthew 5:10. It's blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And let me tell you, uh, they will double down on that persecution. I don't really
They
remember.
they they sure will.
Yeah. I don't remember. So like I did my notes in preparation for last week's show where we didn't do the book. So I'm now a little fuzzy. I don't remember too much about being righteousness or the kingdom of heaven. There's a lot about being persecuted and categorizing persecution and what causes persecution and is this
Mm-hmm.
persecution or is
Mm-hmm.
that persecution. There's a lot about persecution in this book. Panda thought her migraines were a punishment for something she had sinned about too.
No, those were your grains, not my grains.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right,
Sorry, Panda.
all right. So,
Um,
do you have a note on the first question, or is my note the first?
well, hey, I like to talk about the verse.
Oh, okay.
So I did my best to like run through what the Greek does, and I don't think persecution is quite the right word. Um, I think suffer or endure is a closer thing to what it should be. But the verse um like it does seem to be more accurate than a lot of the translations that they use. Um, like it seems to be happy and blessed are those who suffer because of righteousness, for uh they will inherit, and also kind of like they are the kingdom of heaven. Is would be my more accurate translation,
Okay.
which I thought that was neat.
Sure.
But like the emphasis is seems to me not so much on the persecution, but as to the like these are the good ones. But of course, this this group definitely loves to talk about persecution, how good we are because we got persecuted.
Well, I don't. I mean, yeah. I don't know that. I think that's a Christian thing, at least here in the U.S. That's not just the IBLP. A lot of Christians they fetishize the idea that they're persecuted, which is silly because they're not persecuted at all. But they make up ways that they're persecuted, is what they end up doing. Anyway,
Yeah.
so let's get into my note, unless you have one before that. But
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
all right, so we've got being persecuted for righteousness is is a clear confirmation that we have effectively engaged God's enemy. Christians are to be witnesses. Thus, the more vital and precise the message they give, the more reaction they will receive from those who are entrenched in error. So, I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of a Galileo complex?
No,
Okay.
that is a new terminology to me.
All right. So I think I'd heard about it for the first time just a few days before I read this, but this is a Galileo complex. So a Galileo complex is the a thought process where the more opposition you get for your idea, it's your idea is constructed in such a way that the more opposition you get, the more correct you are.
Interesting.
Right. Um and this is that. Like they've defined persecution in such a way that the more you tell them they're wrong, the more that just proves to them that they're right.
Right.
The more it, it's fun or funny.
Man.
But so and it's a thought stop. It's again it's another thought stopping technique. Um,
Sure.
it keeps you from thinking critically about what you believe, and insulates you from anyone correcting anything that you might be saying that's wrong.
Yeah, I
So
agree. Uh, I mean, it like I was listening to a comedian the other day who had a great line about cults. I tried to figure out how to do a clip, but I'm just too bad at computers. Um, but he was talking about how what cults do is isolate you uh, by creating a separate language
mm-hmm.
so that when you're around your loved ones and you talk to them about stuff, they just don't understand unless they have been through the same like vocabulary.
Sure.
Uh,
And we've definitely
and I
seen
would
that with them. I mean, they're redefining every word, or
right.
lots of words.
Well, I mean, we're defining every word, defining processes, and then like I really think that's part of why they want to do the spiritual component to everything, is just to like we bring up democracy, and then rather than think about democracy, we think about yep, that came from John Calvin.
Yeah.
Like everything is tied to some crazy philosophy thing.
Yeah, for sure,
Okay.
for sure. All right. Um, I have the second question highlighted as a note.
Okay. Well, so first, do we know which of these questions are supposed to be true false this time?
There's two correct and two wrong, and I don't know which ones are supposed to be true and which ones are supposed to be false.
Okay.
I feel like this second one, um, I feel like it was a. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be true or not, but I think it was. I
Yeah,
think it's one.
it's very hard for me to know which is which because they're all so bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Um. But
but once again, like every Christian should be expected uh to be persecuted for righteousness sake. And then they're like 1 Timothy 3:12, which is that a minister should be a husband of one wife. I
mm-hmm.
don't know why that is about persecution, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
like, like that just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. Um. So I'm reading my note here for this one, and I said I think it's supposed to be true, but my note assumes it's false. Uh, so let me read through it again. Uh, um, one thing I do remember, and I don't know if it is related to the IBLP. It may not be related to this specific point, but they definitely thought that there were extra rewards in heaven beyond just going to heaven,
Oh, oh, for sure.
and so uh, the better you performed on earth, the better rewards you were going to get in heaven.
Right,
Beyond just going to heaven, where like a lot of Christians, it's just you get to go to heaven and that's the reward.
right.
But for the IBLP, there was like extra stuff in heaven that you would get if you did good on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does kind of change it from into a workspace theology, but not for getting into heaven, but for what your position is in heaven afterwards. And
Right.
it also gives them another layer of control because you now have a motivation to perform. Because like if you don't perform, you're going to spend eternity as a second class citizen. You
Yeah.
know, so and I don't know if that. And so I was like, that's what was my thought about this, but I think it doesn't make sense. In if this one is supposed to be true, uh, it doesn't really relate to this specific point, but it is something that the IBLP believes. Anyway, do you have any
Is there
notes?
is there any basis in scripture that you can think of for that?
Um, there's
Like
this,
I know it says don't store up treasures on earth, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven.
there's that.
Um,
There's
but
also the bit about Paul running the race and receiving a crown for winning the race,
right,
and
but the
like
crown mentioned there is the laurel crown of the Olympic champion.
sure, it's still a
Like that's
reward. And even if you, I mean, even if you all you get is the laurel crown, you still have the prestige. You know, there's still that
I
prestige.
mean I guess, but
Um,
like there's the whole thing that like the crowns that the Christians were supposed to get were 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 the laurel leaves of the Olympic winner, and when you get to the throne, you cast those crowns down. Like that's the phrase, casting crowns, uh, at the feet of the king. And so like you're you're giving up your reward. You're giving up your glory because God's glory is better and God is better. And so like the only rewards you would be getting as like true Christian theology would be that like you're a soul winner and so there's more people in heaven and so the other Christians are your treasure, right?
I mean, like for all of eternity, you'll be able to say, "I had 5 crowns," or "I had 20 crowns," or whatever. You know,
I mean,
so
but like in good Christian theology, that's the way it would be interpreted. Or am I mistaken?
well, so here's my thoughts on good, the quote unquote good Christian theology.
Sorry.
Um, it's all made up, so none of it is more correct than any other. Like, like the
Okay, we
IBL,
disagree.
the IBLP isn't more true or less true than the most liberal church because none of it's true, right? So
Wow.
like there isn't a true Christian theology. There's this Christian theology and that Christian theology.
Interesting. Because I have a completely different view.
Sure.
Um, like there are people who have faith, and as a person in a multicultural pluralistic society, I am supposed to respect their faith.
Right.
Um, and they're like, I live by this book, and I'm like, all right, you live by this book, and they're like, so I have to hate these people, and then I'm like, hey, your book doesn't say that. And if at that point they're like, bull hunky, my book does say that, or you don't understand my book definitely says this, then I have less respect for them because like, you're just using this as a thing for hate. You just want to hate people.
Right. But here's my point. There's no referent in reality to say this is what this book is trying to communicate. This thing that actually exists.
Well, right,
So
right.
now I can say this theology is more harmful than that theology. And I want to oppose this theology more than I do that theology because it's more harmful. But there's no way I can say your theology is less true than that theology. And it's kind of, we kind of got into
But
this last week.
it's it's not to me it's not about the harm, it's about the intent. Like so if I'm like one of my traumatic things as a youth pastor was that I had to explain to some kids who identified as bisexual that the Bible does indeed say you shouldn't do that. But I couched it with like also, you know, modern based on where these verses come from, the modern American uh, law system and the modern American uh, money system, and eating shrimp is also a sin. So like it's okay, but I had to like explain and like reason away like, yeah, I'm sorry, the Bible says you're bad. Versus um someone being like going beyond what scripture says and using scripture as to create an excuse to hate. Versus I unfortunately have to hate versus like I got to go beyond. Um because that's not taking the you know that's not following orders. That's making the orders be what you want them to be, and what you want them to be is hate.
See, I see it a little bit differently than that because I think you can make the you can interpret because there's no referent. You can interpret them however you want. And some of that is um some of that's going to be informed by what you're taught, but there's nothing there's no there's it's possible to interpret scripture however you want to interpret it or
Yeah.
interpret the Bible. And so like if you want to interpret it that it says what there's people who interpret it saying black people are cursed because
Right.
of um because that's what happened to was it
Right.
Shem? I don't
Cain.
know. Cain, no, not Cain, because Cain it was one of Noah's
Oh, right,
sons.
right, right. The Semite people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be the descendants of Shem. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. No, not the Semite, because Semites are Hebrews or
I,
Israelites and
I'm
Hebrews.
I'm aware, but
But
that is that. But the descendants of Shem include the Hebrew people, supposedly, like by very bad theology. Um, that the this. Hang on, let me look. I'm gonna just Google, so I'm not just talking out my butt.
okay. But yeah, so like but you can certainly I never heard that till recently. Like that was never part of the thing way I interpreted it. I never heard that interpretation. But that's an interpretation people get from the Bible. The fact that you can get that out of the Bible means um you can get whatever you want out of the Bible. And if
Yeah.
you want to get hate out of the Bible, you can get hate out of the Bible. And so to some extent, the people who find the hate in the Bible, it's because that's what they wanted out of it. And the people who don't find hate in the Bible, they don't find it because they don't want hate in the Bible.
Right. I mean, that is definitely a valid truth. Um, but kind of like, I mean, not to make everything about uh, Nazis being the worst people ever, um, but there's a difference in my mind. Not that people just following orders are innocent, but there is a difference between the person who said, "I want to do this policy and wipe out this people group," and the people who like were following orders. Like there is a responsibility to not follow some orders. There's a time when men of good conscience must say no. But I think it is a less. I find the commanders that say go kill these people to be more at fault than the soldiers who did the job. And so when it comes to scripture, I find the people who do the bad thing because they found it in the Bible to be uh, I don't know, less guilty. At least
Well,
they have the potential of being like oh, you're wrong. That's not how it is. Let me just show you that you don't have to hate people, and then they could get over it.
And that's what I've said. I've said that many times. Is you know, I, I'm not so concerned about people who. I mean, I am concerned about people who do harm, but I'm more concerned about why. Like if they do harm, they're doing harm because they just don't care that they're doing harm. That person is a lot less. I have a lot less sympathy for that person than the one who thinks they're doing good and are actually doing harm. Because if you show them that they're doing harm, they'll change.
Right.
So anyway, we're burning time. We should probably move
Sorry,
on.
man. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good stuff. Do you have any notes on this first page?
Yeah, yeah. Let me see. Do. Are you done with the first page? Have you done all your notes?
Yeah, those were my notes.
Oh, okay. So in the second paragraph, in second in the this question two, I guess we already talked about, but I don't see because they talk about there are at least three dimensions of comparison between present suffering and future rewards, as if when you suffer now, you're going to get more rewards, not just based on like what you did in life and whether you were an effective soul winner or something, but literally the more your life sucks, the better it will be in heaven. And a that is beyond modern, like you asked if this is just regular Christian theology, and that seems a lot more toxic to me. And I don't find anything for it in scripture of like your life sucked and you were a Christian, but that means your life will be great in heaven. Just don't see any evidence of that, and so that is a bonkers claim to tell people that are being influenced by you.
Right.
And then number 4, was that do you think number 4 was supposed to be true or false?
I think that's probably that. I would say that's probably supposed to be true. No,
So whenever
no. That's not, because you could be suffering at the hands of non-Christians for non-righteousness sake.
right,
So that one's false.
I hope so, but I do kind of wonder if they're trying to plant the idea that like anytime a Christian suffers, that's persecution.
Well, if you look at their explanations, they say many Christians suffer needlessly because of wrong words, actions, attitudes, or motives. So they're clarifying you can suffer just because you're suffering from non-Christians. You're not being persecuted necessarily.
Okay. I it doesn't feel like that's something that they believe later on. But I'm glad they do have the clarification.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's
they don't address that anywhere else. That you could be just because you're suffering, it doesn't mean it's persecution. I think they feel like, hey, we've already covered. You may not be just because you're suffering, it's not persecution. Now let's spend 40 pages discussing all the different kinds of persecution you can suffer.
right. Yeah, that was my impression as well. Okay, so moving on.
All right. I have highlights in the second column. Do you have any before that?
Yes.
All right.
I'm surprised you don't have this. So I remember distinctly being told by the conference, the verse is, the devil walks about like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I remember Gothard having this whole thing about how the roaring lion isn't the one you have to worry about. It's that's the old lion.
Yeah, it's
and
the one that's yeah.
What's the verse is supposed to be saying is just stand up to the devil, you little whiners, and God'll have your back. Um, and my question to you was, is that true at all?
I don't know. I've never looked at the hunting strategy that prides have, so I couldn't tell you if that's true at all or not. Um, and here's the thing: just because it's true doesn't mean that whoever wrote this verse knew that.
Right.
You know, uh, so like it doesn't matter whether that's true or not. It matters what the person who wrote the verse meant when they said it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I didn't. I thought about that, but I didn't address it because it's not. They don't talk about that in
Okay.
this,
It
and
was
so I was just like, I'll let it pass. I'm sure they'll talk about it at some point.
yeah. So that was just something I wanted to bring up because I remembered that being something that I accepted as truth and then never ever heard anywhere else. And so I'm trying to question all the things that are that way. So I was curious. Um, but in the uh, two paragraphs below the lion, um, Satan and those who he uses are under God's restraining control, and they have been defeated by Christ's victory in the resurrection. However, Satan still possesses deadly power to deceive Christians and disrupt God's work.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? Isn't everything according to God's plan? Like something we talked about earlier in these books? And God has total control?
Well, you got to understand. See, God has the plan, but then Satan comes along and ruins that plan.
So God's not all powerful.
Well, God allows it to Satan to ruin his plan.
I don't understand how I didn't call that cognitive dissonance out in the moment. I mean, I didn't know what cognitive dissonance was, but
Yeah,
like this,
I found that so many times when I think back to the things that I believed and the things that I thought, I was like, how did I not see this?
right?
How did it take me 25 years before I saw this to be the case? And it's just one of those things, you know. I think that's something everyone has, you know, blind spots, and that's just one of the things we have to accept.
I mean, we sure had a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so where's your next note at?
It's that box in the middle.
Okay, yeah, go to. I've got one right after that.
All right, so we've got persecution you endure for doing right proves five things. You've been chosen by God. Christ's character is being recognized in you. You are a threat to Satan's kingdom. You are not conforming to the world system. You have brought conviction by exposing sin to those who persecute you. And you know, they're giving you a whole host of thought stopping techniques to dismiss anyone who disagrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, uh, why did someone react badly when you quite rudely went up to them and told them the capital T truth? Because the truth convicted them and they lashed out. Or maybe it was because Satan is working through them and wants to neutralize the threat you represent. Or maybe it's because you aren't being silent like the world wants you to be. I mean, it's just you can fall back on any of these reasons and say that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason this person isn't accepting what I'm saying.
Right.
But it means it just shows me that I'm more correct, just like that Galileo complex that we've talked about.
Dude, the Galileo complex is great. Deviant.
All
Um, man, I'm definitely gonna look that up some more.
right.
Uh, like I know we keep saying that this like isn't a topical podcast, but man, that sure seems relevant.
Well, it's part of the human condition. It it's not a thing that doesn't happen, or it wouldn't have a name for it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I did skip one. Very bottom on the left.
The kingdom
Uh,
is not a kingdom.
So a kingdom is not a kingdom, yeah, unless it has four elements: a king, laws, subjects obey the laws, the borders within which it has authority. Um, and I feel like that stands opposed to the like nine times Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is like this," and then described a very nice, kind thing where people gave each other stuff.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things is like I said, if there's no referent in reality for what Christianity is or should be, then what you got is a bunch of people who were not really connected to each other or only tangentially connected to each other, writing their own thoughts and opinions on it.
Well,
And so
sure.
if it doesn't all make sense together, not very surprising.
While I agree with that, I still want to point out the times that they're like, "This is what the Bible says," and I'm like, "No, it doesn't."
Sure.
Okay, so moving on. Did you finish your? You still got more in that center box.
Well, that was I went all it was five highlights all, but it was all 1 point.
Oh, okay. Um, what else you got?
I
Oh,
just have
I got something. I got this. I got something on the same note.
okay. Let's go.
But go ahead.
That's it. I've
Without
already said.
when the one with when Christianity became popular, persecution stopped, and many
Oh,
uncommitted people.
on my next note. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so it says when Christianity became popular, persecution stopped, and many uncommitted people joined churches. Soon, compromise, apostasy, and corruption abounded. So, if a Christian is not persecuted, they aren't really Christian. This reinforces the problem from the other side. You have to go out and seek the persecution, make it happen. Because if you don't, then you aren't really a Christian.
Right. So the persecution is necessary to maintain faith.
Uh, I mean, it's the proof that you are actually a Christian versus not someone who's cosplaying as a Christian or something. At least that's how they're portraying it here.
I guess. Um, but so yeah, so we agree with that. I have, man, I know you don't like me getting off in the weeds, but so the next paragraph. The Reformation movement began by courageous men like John Wycliffe, John Hus, William Tyndale, Martin Luther, John Calvin, and John Wesley. Um, and so we know that the basis of the Christian Reformation movement was scriptura es ora, that the doctrine of Scripture trumps oral tradition, and so many of the things that the Catholic Church was doing were not Christian because they weren't in Scripture. And probably not important to you because you're talking about how like it doesn't do the there's what did you call it? There's not a divine beneficent or something.
Referent.
Referent. Man, you got good words. But if it's based on a book, then it does kind of matter. But regardless of that point, the one of the criticisms versus Wycliffe, Tyndale, and Wesley was that the English language is inadequate to convey the concepts of Scripture, and that if we put it in the hands of the common man, they will misinterpret it and get things wrong. And
Sure.
if we allow everybody to interpret it, rather than it coming from the popes and then the church as they understood it to be, that there would be heresy. And so, do you think the Catholics were a little bit right?
Um. So
Like,
I mean,
like,
like
like, like, obviously, the Catholic Church at times gets way away and had gotten way away from what Scripture means, and like they got very unbiblical at points. But do you think that they were right that the diffusion away from uh, the Latin and the Greek and the Hebrew is part of why we have such crazy beliefs now?
no, no, I don't think that's any part of it. If it stayed in Latin and people had read it, I think we'd have the same thing.
Okay.
Um, because it's back to the reference thing. There's nothing you can point to and say this is what you're looking at in reality, and this is what you're comparing your interpretation to. There's just not that thing. So when you read this verse and you interpret it one way and this other person interprets it another way, there's no way to to objectively determine who has the right interpretation, right?
So well, I mean, do you believe that's true for any written thing?
Um, yes. Well, no, no. There's some written things like if I write down the formula for gravity, there's a
Yeah.
referent there. I can point to a thing that is in the reality saying this is what this represents. And if something happens in reality that disagrees with what I wrote down, you can say it's wrong.
Okay.
Um so yeah, not all there are writings that have reference in reality. I can even like if I do if I write a history book, and history's a little bit weird because like you can't prove history, uh, but let's just say I write a history and I say on 9/11/2001, two airplanes. If I write down three airplanes hit the World Trade Center, you
Okay.
can look at that and you can say no, it was only two. You can say this is wrong, and there's no way you can misinterpret that as being correct because it's just
Well,
wrong.
right, right. But I'm thinking more like, um, here in the U.S., we have a constitution that is supposedly the basis for so many of our laws.
Sure.
Um, and throughout uh, throughout our history, we have decided that different things are different are like things that were unconstitutional now were not considered so in the past. And
Okay.
do you think that is because the interpretation of the has changed, or because it doesn't matter what the Constitution says?
Um. So our legal system is based on English common law, which
Right.
is basically it's based on precedents. So in a way, yeah, I think the Constitution um, is open to interpretation by the judges. Because that's what happens. Like they say this is unconstitutional. We saw that with Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade was constitutional, and now it's not.
Right.
So like obviously the interpretation of what the Constitution is saying is an interpretation, and it's not necessarily there's no way you can like point there's nothing to point to saying this is the correct interpretation of the Constitution. Like there's not a gravity for the Constitution that you can say if what you're interpreting is different than what this is, your interpretation is wrong. You can't do that.
But like that's the basis of our entire legal code.
Yeah.
So you're just like, so in your opinion, our legal code is made up and the rules don't matter.
Well, yeah, all legal codes are made up.
That's a very strange way of looking at the law.
Well, tell me a legal code that what there's no legal code in nature,
Well, I
right?
mean, I agree with that, but we as members of a society say, okay, we're gonna treat this thing as a rule, and it sounds like you're in your mind that rule doesn't matter.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I think it. I think it. I think it should matter. But I'm not saying this is the way I like it. I'm saying this is the way it is. Just because
Hmm.
just because I recognize that something is the way it is doesn't mean that I say that's the way it should be. That's a different thing altogether.
Okay, because I just you seem to be a lot less fussed when like this stuff doesn't match up to what the Bible should be, and so uh, I'm curious how you feel about laws and whatnot. Hey, it's the ambushed apostate.
Well, I mean, so like I said, I don't think there is a way the Bible should be, right? I think it.
Well, I mean, no, it's not. I don't mean should be as an immoral. I mean like say you're reading the Star Wars novel, like Star Wars A New Hope. And if someone is like, nah, Luke was the villain, uh that wouldn't be the way it was. Or maybe like you could I guess you could argue that Luke is a villain, but
I
you
mean, he killed
couldn't
millions of people.
right. So you could say that, but you couldn't be like Wedge blew up the Death Star.
I mean, so Luke didn't blow up the Death Star. Okay, do you know why?
Go ahead.
Because there was no Death Star. Right? It's made up. Um, and
Story.
what?
But in the context of the story, you can't just be like nothing matters.
No, I don't. It's not that nothing matters. It's that like things that are made up, things that we make up, we get to define that, right? So so if we've made it up, it's not. It's I don't know. To me, I guess it's less real if it's made up than if it's not made. If there's a reference, like I said, if there's a reference to reality, I have something I can compare to, and I can say, no, this is wrong, and this is right. Like correct, not wrong and right, as in like moral and
I
immoral.
just I see it as more nefarious to do a conscious manipulation of people when you know that's not what it says versus my subconscious and inherent biases have me interpreting this bit of scripture in a different way.
Right. And
And
so
and
so for
and there
me,
go ahead.
for me, I would just stop it at it's wrong to manipulate people. And I don't care if they're doing it with and it's congruent with my interpretation of the Bible or not. If you're manipulating people, you're wrong.
Well, it correct. Um, I definitely grant you that premise, but I don't I don't see I don't see it the same as I'll take an honest fanatic over a manipulator.
I will sure.
Um, Even though the fanatic is actually more dangerous.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the thing I said. If you think you're doing good, but you're doing wrong or bad, you to me that's an easier sell is showing how you're doing bad than someone who knows they're doing bad and doesn't care.
Okay.
You know. So I don't know. All right. Well, that was a long 2 pages.
Sorry.
No, it's great. This has been great. All right. I think we're ready to move on. I have more on the next page.
Yeah,
Do
me
you?
too. Yeah, of course.
All right. I'll go ahead and start with mine. Maybe we'll go back with yours if it's not. All right. So we have, for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. When a spiritual movement exerts a force on the world will attempt to exert an equal and opposite force against it. My only note is kind of silly. I look forward to digging into how the laws of motion are actually there to teach us how the spiritual world works.
Yeah. Man. Okay. Sometimes I need to take better notes.
Okay.
Because my note on this is WTF, huh? Paper bandana lazy.
Yep. Sounds like you need to have better notes because I don't know what you were thinking.
Sorry.
All right. I have the thing next to John Calvin highlighted. We got
yeah. Go ahead.
the principles of Scripture which John Calvin used to establish the government in Geneva provided a foundation for the common law in England and the constitutional law in America. No. English common law has its roots in the Norman invasion. I don't really know why the IBLP likes John Calvin so much, because I don't think they were Calvinist. But they're overstating their case with the Constitution too. It was the common law was a major inspiration. You got Enlightenment philosophy, classical republicanism. I'm not sure how much, if any, John Calvin had on the U.S. Constitution, but he certainly had no influence on common law that it was in effect for 400 years. Well, no. Sorry, 500 years before he was born. So that's just a stupid thing to say. Shows that they don't know history.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any notes on this one?
Well, I mean, just that, like, if you look at what they're doing, so the reason I think the reason that they like Calvin so much or whatever, is this. They create a timeline that they're like, there was this guy who got it a little bit right, then there was Blackstone who got it a little bit right, and there was Wendell Holmes, then there was Earl Warren, and now we have America, God's country. Like, well, it's just American exceptionalism.
Well, they don't like Oliver Wendell Holmes.
Right. But like, what they're doing is they're trying to take random people from history and create a timeline that makes them feel better about who they are.
You know what's interesting to me is, like, at the beginning of this thing, they're like, look how John Calvin did this. He started English common law. That was amazing. Constitution of America. That's amazing. And then when these by the bottom, when these Supreme Court justices are using the principles that guide English common law, they're like, and this sucks. Like, really?
I mean, right.
It makes me question if they even know what English common law is, or if they just know that's a word, and that it influenced the Constitution, so it must be good.
Right.
Because, like, it makes no sense the way they're framing it. My next note is a determined attack against biblically based law in America began in the 19th century when the influence of Darwin's theories of evolution brought about an evolving law code based on precedent rather than principle. And it's like, what are they even talking? Again, English common law is based on precedent. That's what it's been an evolving law system since the beginning. Darwin did not bring that about 800 years later. That's just not what happened.
That is not what happened.
And also, like the idea that anytime something changes, that is a result of Darwin's idea is just hilarious to me. Science has been changing since the beginning. New theories replace less robust ones all the time. It's like they know the words they should be using and don't know what they mean. That was in my note, which I had just made that a few minutes ago and forgot about it.
Right, but
then
go ahead.
My last part of the note is, and besides all that, I like change. I don't want to be dogmatically tied to past ideas when newer, better ones come around. I'm not saying that every new idea is automatically better, but at least they should be evaluated and not just dismissed because they aren't old ideas. So
yeah, that we've always done it this way is the worst reason to do something, and it's the worst reason to not try something new.
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead.
No, that's my rant.
So then in the medicine page, I'm surprised you don't have anything here. Because they talk about how persecution is related to the sensation the body has of pain, and then ties it into like the spiritual body and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without pain, the body cannot sense danger to itself. Because in this theology, sinners are a danger. They're not people they're trying to help. The world is the enemy. Which is absolutely, toxic and against Christianity.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a problem.
But like mainstream Christianity has problems, but most mainstream Christianity doesn't view the world as the enemy. And I think that's one of the big problems that we're having right now in our country is that like we're not seeing ourselves as a single populace that disagrees over a form of government or form of ideology or some of these issues. Like we are completely divided between like I am in this camp or I'm in that camp, and I don't think our leaders even want to fix the problem. They want us split this way. They don't, like, the Democrats do not want to represent the Republicans, and the Republicans don't want to represent the Democrat. Like I'm talking about the population. Like we really need to get we need to get more okay with like the people that disagree with me are not my enemy. They just disagree.
Sure.
And this doctrine basically says everybody is your enemy until they're in this cult.
Yeah, it does. Definitely.
And I shudder at the hypocrisy that says that is a religion or philosophy of love.
Well, that's always been one of the critiques of the IBLP.
I mean, not one they recognized.
No, external critiques. That's not one they recognize. All right. Do you have any more on this page?
I mean, no, that's about it. Like that was I had some nitpicks on the in the pain thing, but that was the overarching theological point. Like,
All right. Nothing on this page. All right. Page 363 is my next note. You don't have it on 362. That's just the table of contents, right?
no, I didn't get anything on the table of contents.
All right. Now, before we go into this section, I wanted to go over some general thoughts on it. They are categorizing the various forms that persecution can take. These categories are afflicted, oppressed, harassed, betrayed, pursued, tortured, imprisoned, and martyred. This is a commonly used tactic of the IBLP. They create artificial categories that often overlap and then definitively describe what each category is and what the results of the category are. It's a way to control the perceptions of the members because members will recognize certain categories and already know what the correct response is. In this case, it is about suffering, but the IBLP does this everywhere for all kinds of different concepts. It is one of the most common things they do. So,
I mean, I talk about this a little bit later, but the well, I'll get to it when I get to it.
right.
We can echo back.
All right. My first. You see my first highlight?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
So mine is the first thing is the first important fact in the thing, and in our first sentence here. The first important fact to understand about persecution is that it is normal part of the Christian life. And I'm pretty sure that any thinking person reading this stuff would be like, the first important fact is that if we're persecuted, it should be because we're being good and honoring God. Not that it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
And like I crazy that they're like, the most important thing is that you get persecuted, not that you are handling yourself appropriately.
Right.
As if they are training you, and not quite saying it, but they're training you to seek persecution. They want you to martyr yourself. So like,
Yeah.
it's a fetish.
No, it is. It totally is. They want that persecution. It's what validates, like I mean, all of it ties together. It validates what they're saying. The more persecuted you are, the more correct you are. I mean, that's just the way that works for them.
Right. So like, but the problem, I guess I'm new to this concept of the Galileo. What is it, the Galileo what?
Complex.
The Galileo complex, where the more you are opposed, the more right you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so they need to be wilder and wilder in their stuff, because if they're not being opposed by people, then they're not right.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. They're teaching
Man,
you
that
to make people. They're teaching you to try to put people off, make them react to you. That's what they're trying to do.
man.
So, we ready to move on?
Oh, sure, yeah.
All right. So all of my highlights on this page are like one point. So affliction is a general term for prolonged suffering, mental, physical, or spiritual. Blessings received for affliction is we will gain a deeper understanding of God and His Word. We will develop stronger character. We will attain a clearer perspective, and we will broaden our usefulness. And my thing is, they're focusing on the possible positive outcomes from prolonged stress, and some of them are actual things that could actually happen, like from this. but they're completely ignoring the PTSD, the depression, the anxiety that comes from prolonged stress as well. Um, and they're phrasing it as like, if you have affliction, this will happen, and not that it
Yeah.
might, but it will. They're guaranteeing that this is what you will get from it. Um, and there's good ways to develop to deal with and cope with prolonged stress, prolonged
Yeah.
suffering. The IBLP does not give you any of those tools.
No.
Not even
No.
close.
That like the lack of coping skills is one of the worst things that comes out of this. Like the idea of like I'm just going to give my whatever to God is is literally just bottling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so it brings up. Let me. It's a thing called spiritual bypass, and
I
it's
got to build bypasses.
yeah, it's the tendency to use spiritual beliefs or practices to avoid dealing with painful feelings and unresolved wounds and developmental needs. Um, and in the IBLP, they overemphasize the spiritual suffering, and it's a way of doing spiritual bypass. Um,
Okay.
then also, like, one thing that helps you cope with this stuff is a robust support network. When you're in the IBLP, you don't get a robust support network at all. Um,
I mean, I think the way they do family even isolates you from your family
right, right.
because
So
like you can't have real talks.
yeah, it's they the IBLP focuses on judgmentalism and perfectionism, and that doesn't give you a support network, because if you show that you're not perfect, you're going to be judged by
Hmm.
the people who in the rest of the people in the IBLP. And so yeah, it's it's very very problematic. And you can't say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm having issues. I'm having trouble dealing with these this persecution I'm dealing with or I'm facing." Because the fact that you admit that you're struggling, that you're not just handling it, means that you're not living up to, you're not doing persecution right if you're not
Right.
just handling it. So yeah, it's really a problem.
I
Yes.
I wonder how much different things would be in our world if Christians, well, it's not just Christians. If we could just admit to each other that like, man, it sucks right now, you
uh,
know?
yeah.
Like we don't know what to do with that. Like you pull a Prince Zuko from Avatar. You're like, yeah, my thing happened and this happened and my car blew up and my dog died and everyone's like, that's rough, buddy. Because we like we have no concept of what to do when someone is in pain.
True.
I think we should do better. But go ahead. Well, what else you got?
That's it for this page. I got another note on next page.
Yeah. let's move
All right.
forward.
So, oppression, a prideful abuse of power, is illustrated in Pharaoh's attempt to enslave and crush the children of Israel. Um, they don't explicitly deny this, but their examples are always of an unrighteous person abusing power. They're examples um, of persecution. There's no acknowledgement that abuses of power happen inside of Christianity too.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's a good point.
that was my note for this page.
That was your okay. Man, I went off. See, second column, third paragraph down.
No one can oppress.
Yeah. So no one can oppress God's people without impunity. Is that a typo? Because with impunity would mean that no one can oppress us with no one can oppress Christians without with nothing stopping them. But without impunity, I think that's got to be a typo, right?
Yeah, I don't know. When you start adding multiple negatives in a sentence, I get confused about which what's actually meant.
Right. But so that just seemed like I didn't know if that was a theological point or.
I think what they're trying to say is, if you oppress God's people, God will protect His people at some point. Like He's using Elisha, and God's armies will deliver. Yeah. So like,
so then he talks about how although God's army can deliver us, usually He chooses to deliver us as we seek Him in prayer. And this is where I went into something similar to what you were talking about, where the IBLP will categorize something and then build theology based on their categories. And this is the problem of this phrase. God can deliver us at any time, but He usually chooses to deliver us as we seek Him in prayer. And this is the problem of applying theory to the Bible that makes a bad if-then logic. Like if God is all-knowing, why do we need to pray? Like in the Bible, it's very much a conversation of like, God, behold the things I'm going through, can you help? And then God's like, oh, you're hurt, let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
But modern theology says, well, God is all-knowing. So based on that, why would we have to pray? Because God should already know. And so they'll say things like, well, praying is aligning your heart with God. And I think at this point, we have a whole lot of theology and a whole lot of people that that are believing things not based on anything that has to do with the original intention of the writers, but is just based on, well, if God is all powerful, then this must be true. Well, if that must be true, then this must be true. Well, if that must be true, then this must be true. And you end up in very strange places.
Sure. I mean, Christian logic, like if you formalize Christian logic, it's full of contradictions. That's just a fact of it.
Fair.
So, and part of that is like I said, I hate to bring this back up again. There's no referent, okay? So you have, Isaiah writing at his time about the things he's writing about. And then you have Paul writing at his time about the things he's talking about. Neither of these two guys had something that they could point to saying, that is what I'm trying to write about. Okay? So it's just coming out of their own heads. It's coming out of their own interpretation of what's come before them. And like Paul, he's interpreting Isaiah. But we don't know that that's what Isaiah meant. And he has different opinions from Isaiah. He has different opinions from everyone that's come before him. So, like, the fact that it doesn't make sense coherently is, like, completely unsurprising.
Well, I suppose that's true. But if that's the case, you could just sum up this whole podcast with, well, this stuff is wrong.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we do, except we don't summarize it. We spend hours telling about saying that.
Well, I have to deprogram, man. I got to figure out why it's wrong.
Sure. All right. You got any more on this page?
No. Go ahead. Let's go ahead.
All right. Page 365. I have one note right at the very end. If you have any other notes, we'll talk about them.
Yeah. So they divided this up into the being pursued as one of the categories of persecution.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, pursuit involves hatred and vengeance toward a personal enemy. Saul hounded Christians thinking he was doing God a favor. King Saul pursued David with jealous hatred.
Okay.
And like, I know that you say it's all made up and so it doesn't matter. But I think it's pretty manipulative to be like,
if you're named Saul, you're going to pursue Christians?
No, to say the apostle Saul, or that Saul did this thing before he was Paul. Just like King Saul did this thing to David. Here's the reference. Like, that's not even the same testament.
Okay.
I don't think those two are related. I don't think, like, you can't make that correlation. This is bad logic. It doesn't work. And you cannot reference Saul by referencing Samuel, like the apostle Saul or Paul. And I think it's disingenuous to do so. Like, I think they just tried to pull a fast one and say, Saul, here's a reference. Hope nobody noticed.
Oh, I see. Maybe so. Maybe they're trying to make people think Saul, it was the same guy. Maybe, I don't know.
Like there's enough of like, oh, clearly it's not that, but like that's the correlation is clearly the intent of the writer.
I didn't even pick up on that. It is interesting. You're right that they picked two Sauls that lived 1,000 years apart.
And they move on so quick. Like that is moving on quick is one of the things you do when you're not you don't want people to think about it too much.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I can't say for sure what I thought when I read this as a kid. But I'm pretty sure at this point I already knew that, like, it was two different Sauls. You know, that they were talking about two different people.
You did. You're weird. like you cannot judge you and me as the standard for what people went through, man.
Well, what my point is, I think, is in an IBLP family, I would expect most kids would are by the time they're reading this would know that they're talking about two different souls.
Uh,
That's the kind of people an IBLP family would have.
right. But at this point, an IBLP family is just going to be reading this stuff, accepting it as doctrine. And when someone says, hey, that's not the Saul you're talking about, they would go into be like, well, that's not what he means. It's kind of this kind of thing. And so therefore you just don't understand. But they're just, at this point, they're so trusting in their brainwashing that this isn't even a subtle one. It's just people won't question.
Yeah.
And that's it's scary that it's true. Because we, for years and years, we didn't question this. And not just we, but like, the many other members of the faith.
Um,
Like,
Martel, do you have a cat?
no.
I don't have a cat. I'm not sure what you're hearing, Deviant, but it's not a cat. I have my fan on that I haven't had on because it's not been warm. But yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure what cat you're hearing.
No, I had a cat for a while, because I found one that was kind of roughed up and was with child, and I got it and all its babies adopted. But by the time the babies were adopted, we were not friends. It was eating my carpet and my stuff and me. Um, and now it's a barn cat and much happier.
All right. Um. I have a beard, but it's not rubbing against the microphone because I don't eat my microphone. Um. All right. Do you have any other notes on this page? I have one right at the end.
So this is another one of those, like, this is just a question for you.
Sure.
Imprisonment is a form of persecution familiar to Christians since the days of the early church. And actually, I'd kind of like the chat to ponder this as well. So, people have, in fact, been imprisoned for being Christian.
Mm-hmm.
That's a historical fact.
Sure.
Christians have also imprisoned other people for not being Christian or failure to be Christian the right way. Do you think in history, the totality of human experience, that more people have been imprisoned for being Christian, or more people have been imprisoned by Christians for not doing the things the Christian wanted? Like, do you think more Christians have been imprisoned, or more Christians do the imprisoning?
Well, so like some of that is going to be like this type of Christian imprisoning this other type of Christian. So like that's
Yeah.
going to add to both sides. I would, but if you take away that,
Why would that take away, or add, why would that add to both sides?
well, because if a Christian is imprisoning another Christian for not being the right type of Christian, then it would add to the number of people that are being imprisoned by a Christian for not being a Christian. But it would also add to the number of people that are imprisoned for being a Christian.
Hmm.
So that just adds to both sides. So it doesn't.
I hate arguing with you. I always have. But just answer the question.
Honestly, I would say probably more Christians have been imprisoned for being Christian than have imprisoned other people for not being the right kind of Christian or not being Christian.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so because like a lot of the time, like I said, a lot of the ones that get imprisoned that you hear about, a lot of the ones that Christians imprison for that you hear about are them imprisoning other Christians. So that's going to raise both numbers. But then you've got the Christians that are like going out to other places and evangelizing and getting thrown in jail for that.
Yeah.
So
Man,
that's just
that's
my gut feeling.
okay.
I would be happy to know that because I don't have strong feelings. I just me thinking through it,
Sure.
and it just
Sure.
seems like there's more opportunities for Christians to be in prison for being Christian.
Um, Chad, I would like to hear what you say. Do you think more Christians have been done imprisoning? Like, which burden do you think it goes? Do you think Christians have suffered in prison more, or Christians have imprisoned people more for not being Christian? Just a curiosity. Like, it's just, there's no way to prove it, I don't think, without really looking into history in a way that wouldn't be effective. But I'm just curious what people's gut feelings are. So that was my note. And then once again, do you have anything else?
I have one at the very end of the page.
Me too. I have one just before yours. Just to point out that we have another incident of the special grace that God gives somebody, whatever that thing is. God gives the detailed amount of Stephen's grace shows that God gives a special dying grace to those called upon to endure martyrdom. And I just like to point out all the times that Gothard is like, this is a special grace, and that the Bible, I don't think ever says this one got special grace, not regular grace.
I've for a while I've held, and I think I talked about this that week that you couldn't do it. And I had a D on, but to me, grace when the IBLP says grace, all that is the opportunity to do the right thing. Like, that's what that is. The opportunity to have the right spirit, the opportunity to do the right thing, whatever it is. That's what grace means. And if you get that opportunity, you've got more grace.
I think that's a bad if-then statement.
Well, I'm just saying that's what they, I mean, that's how they, like, if you, every time that they say grace, if you substitute opportunity to do the right thing, the sentence says the same thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you could Mad Lib that a lot of different ways.
Could be, but it's very consistent.
Well, yeah, but I have always felt like what he means by special grace is that God is providing you a special bit of will to help you through this time as you go through this suffering.
Right.
Which is, I don't think that's saying it's an opportunity to do the right thing is captures the meaning of it.
Okay,
like
I would agree with you that like what he thinks is happening is a special bit of God is giving you a special bit of extra supernatural will or something that you can accept or reject, but you can resist grace. So like, it's not like it's something that you're guaranteed to do just because you've got this extra grace. It's something it's still the opportunity to do this thing.
Sure.
That's how it just seems to be to me.
No, I agree with that. That the reality is what you're saying, but I think what he's telling his followers is that, like, when this happened, God gives you special magic, and that's why you're lucky to suffer.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. They're fetishizing it for sure. All right. My note is God promises that all sufferings for him will be abundantly rewarded in eternity. And so they're saying, instead of, you should relish in the harm you're suffering today. The more suffering you have, the better your afterlife will be.
It's so good to suffer.
Yeah. And that we kind of touched on this before, but it will create a form of resilience in someone who truly believes in it. But
For sure.
But the kind of resilience it's going to create is not a very robust one. It's going to it's based on a hope of future reward instead of like any kind of effective or healthy coping. And it's going to end up causing more harm if the person stops believing in this future reward at some point.
No shit.
And
I can testify to that.
yeah, and so like it's it's just another example of them just giving really bad advice and not providing effective not not an effective coping mechanism.
I mean, I
So
mean, it is
Deviant
it
says
is important.
Deviant says she thinks more Christians have been the imprisoner than the ones that are imprisoned.
That was my impression overall. Like, I think that if you objectively look at uh, the Christian faith, as has been done um, by some much smarter people than me, there was a whole conference about it, and they like they sat down and reasoned and got reasoned debate, and they the conclusion was that Christianity has not been a force for good in history.
Oh, I would agree with that. And, and so, like you said, in prison, like if you wanted to say have more people killed for being Christian, or have more people been killed for being Christian, or killed others for not being Christian, I would have gone the other way on that.
Oh, okay. So
But you said imprisoned, not anything else, and so like specifically imprisoned, I would just say there's probably more opportunities for Christians to be imprisoned for being Christian than Christians to imprison others for not being Christian.
so so your your thing wasn't that like no Christians kind of had it bad. You're like Christians leave no survivors.
Something like that.
Hey, Umbrella Rebellion, good to
Hey.
see you.
All right. Next page. All right. So,
Where we at? Oh yeah, yeah,
page
yeah,
366. All right. I've got we live among the unrighteous in a fallen world highlighted. Um, and this is a common thing in Christianity. It isn't unique to the IBLP, and it's a tactic used to other anyone that they disagree with.
right.
And while it isn't done in the same way, othering people who don't believe the same you is done in all kinds of contexts, not just religions. I hate othering. I think anything that causes you to see a human being as not worthy of as you are is abhorrent.
I agree.
Yeah. So
All people are people. All kinds of love are valid. All kinds of people are valid. Get bent if you disagree.
I agree. All right. I have another highlight. Do you have any highlights on this page?
Yeah, yeah. So when the term "the world" is used in the New Testament, it does not refer to the earth itself. Blah blah blah.
Where are we at?
Right under yours.
Oh, okay.
Um, frequently, the Greek word cosmos speaks of the present world system, the sphere of Satan's control, including all unsaved men and women under his immediate domination and those hostile to God and his righteousness. But what about give unto Caesar what is Caesar, and all authority comes from God? What, like there's the whole umbrella of authority that if we don't, so what is Satan's dominion?
Um, it's a contradiction. I don't know. I mean, it's like we were talking like what we were talking a little tongue in cheek earlier, but you were like, well, how can Satan foil God's plan or whatever? And
Yeah,
I mean, it's just this. It's a contradiction. They it doesn't have a good because they're starting from the wrong basis. They don't have, and they're trying to explain the things that they see in the world. But since they're starting from the wrong starting place, they can't come up with coherent explanations for it.
Right.
So but they accept it, and then they kind of just build off of it, and that's where you get stuff like this, which contradicts stuff that's said elsewhere.
Right. I agree. Umbrella Rebellion. They Satan is such a useful figure in the IBLP. As we talked about with the Roaring Lion thing, like they talked about him being the Roaring Lion, and then like yeah, because it's really scary, and then like a page later, they're like, and the Roaring Lion's not scary.
Sure.
It's Satan is both easily rebuked by the faithful because of the power of Jesus, and also the threat that makes you have to be such a weirdo all the days of your life.
All right. My next note is we are a continual rebuke to those who refuse to live by God's standards. And this is just another manipulation tactic that they're using. They're saying my existence makes other people feel guilty, and so again, it's just another way to another again with the theme. It's a Galileo complex. The fact that you react negatively to me just shows how right I am.
I mean, it does that. Another thing that it did for me personally is this kind of thinking really reinforced how much I believed other people were thinking about me.
Oh, right. I can see
And
that.
the truth is there's this is like my existence is a rebuke to people. I like people notice and like no they don't.
Yeah, no, you're the main character. Everyone is the main character in their own story. They're not. No one's looking at you and like thinking about you like that. That's
No.
just. But
No,
but
not at
everyone
all.
thinks they are, or everyone thinks everyone else is. Um. All right, I've got. Did you have any notes on this one on this page? Besides that
Um
one.
yeah, I got a few more. Um so I don't like the phrasing when in the bottom second paragraph. When we accept Christ as Lord, God removes us from Satan's dominion. The devil no longer has any power over us, and for Christ has defeated him. And like it always bothers me that when they like when even when I was a Christian, that it always bothers me that they are they take the words of the Bible and the words of Jesus and they make their bad if then statement that like we don't say as or they don't say as Christians, you know, why don't you repent and be baptized and join the kingdom of heaven, which is what Jesus said. They go, would you like to accept Jesus into your heart?
Mm-hmm.
Like this phrasing is weaker than what the Bible says. Why do we say it? And it just bothers me. But then it goes on. God wants us to reveal that we are aliens, or wants us to realize that we are aliens, and our real kingdom is heaven. Because Peter wrote, "I beseech you, strangers as pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the devil." And like the emphasis of like what Peter is saying isn't be a weirdo alien. The the point is abstain from fleshly lusts. Like the IBLP skips the part about you're going to get persecuted because you're good, because you're kind, and they will know you by your love and your fruit and your kindness and your and they're going to hate you, and that's good.
Yeah.
And that's such a perversion. of like I know you're there's no referent, but like that is very clearly not what the point is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do take verses out of context, and I don't want to try to say that they don't. They definitely do that.
Yeah. Um, and then and they misattribute cause and effect as they do here next to the. I think no, you go ahead. You've got a note on it as well.
Oh, the continual rebuke, or at the bottom.
No, the Cain murdered Abel.
Oh, okay. Oh, mine one that is like okay. So it says Cain murdered Abel because Abel was righteous, and like I was like that doesn't sound right. I don't remember that being in the Bible. So I went back and look, and it doesn't say why Cain killed Abel. It just says that he did, and it's implied that Cain was jealous of Abel for God accepting the offering, but it doesn't say that explicitly, and it certainly doesn't say that Cain murdered Abel because Abel was righteous, or even that Abel was righteous. It just says God accepted Abel's offering and rejected Cain's. That's
Right.
all it says.
Right. But even like the standard teach, like the Bible doesn't say that's why it happened, but even the standard teaching of like which is that Cain was jealous.
Yeah.
The way this is phrased, it puts the emphasis on Abel.
Mm-hmm.
That it was Abel's righteousness that got him killed,
Yeah.
not the sin of Cain. And I feel like that's pretty missing the point. Like the point wasn't that like being good gets you killed. The point was don't kill people or you get the mark of Cain because killing people's bad.
I don't even think that was the point.
No? What do you think the point was?
Don't give God grain. He wants meat.
Forgotten about that part.
That's how I mean, even as a kid, that's how I read that. I was just like,
Yeah,
oh.
I mean, you are right. That is what I thought when I was a kid. That like, yeah, God likes bacon.
Well, not bacon. That's evil. He
No,
likes other meats.
I'm aware that is what is true. But as a kid, I was like, yeah,
And
God
not
likes
shrimp either.
bacon, not veggies.
All right. I got one more
That's
note on this
amazing.
page.
Go ahead.
Last paragraph. The greatest persecution often comes from Christians who have decided to conform to the world. Miserable within, these carnal men and women lash out viciously to godly believers whose lives trouble their sore consciences. And
All
oh
right.
my gosh.
Yeah. I have a 2-word note on this, and then you can go.
Okay, go ahead.
And I think we're going to agree. My 2-word note is projecting much.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. So, my note is, of course, IBLP would say this. They encounter Christians way more than they encounter non-Christians.
Oh, good point.
And the IBLP members are encouraged to not integrate with other Christians because they'll become too worldly. So they still want to be in this group, this environment, because they're supposed to be persecuted and judged and all. They're supposed to be different. They've got to, even in a Christian environment, they've got to create this. This is the in group and that's the out group.
Yeah.
So that's what this is all about, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I know I think about this every week, but do you think he was intentionally trying to make an in group out group, or was he just a delusional bastard?
Oh man, I don't know. It's hard to say. if he was a true believer or not. Because I don't. All I know about him is, oh, Umbrella met him and spent time at headquarters.
Yeah.
So she says he knew what he was doing. So
You, hmm. Okay.
so all right. Page. My next note is on page 369. Do you have any before that?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Okay. 367. Um, persecution evaluation. Um, pride causes contention. Disrespect results in reaction from those to authority. Those and a multitude of other wrong attitudes are irritants that often produce persecution.
Huh.
And one thing, like one of the like toxic things that I am still trying to deprogram from the IBLP is this idea that you can never be proud of yourself because pride is so wrong.
Sure.
Um, did you get that from the IBLP?
Hmm. I would say that I don't have a lot of pride in myself. Well, I'm not sure that that's the right way to put it. I don't have a lot of confidence in like my knowledge and it's and my thinking, and it's not because, but I don't think it's from the IBLP. Uh, I don't really want to get into it now, but I'm a fallibilist, and so like there's uh
Oh,
it's
that's sweet. Go ahead. I was talking to Umbrella Ryan.
yeah uh and so my fallibilism, I think, is more why I don't have a whole lot of confidence in myself, and it's not, I don't feel like it's really related to the IBLP.
Okay. Cause for me, the like they glorified humbleness and stigmatized pride so much that rather than making me humble, it made me feel like anything I said good about myself was a sin. And so I got to where all I could do was be critical of myself. And it really became just self hate, not humility.
Okay. Yeah, I don't feel like I ever experienced. I still. I mean, I've said it before, but like I never felt the guilt that like Christians are supposed to feel. Um, like not for things that I thought or did that only affected me. I just never felt that. Um,
Hmm.
and so being proud of myself, I don't remember ever feeling proud of myself, but I just don't. I think it was for other reasons other than the IBLP. I think it has to do with things like I've um I've seen where I've been wrong in the past, and so I can't be confident that I'm not wrong now.
Okay. Well, I mean, well, so you did not get the same weirdo thing that I did. Well, that's good. I'm glad you didn't. That was that is something I still deal with. Um, like dealing with situations with my with some of my friends today that have been taking advantage of me, and I'm like, hey, it's not okay to take my stuff just because I'm a bastard. And then my other friend is like, you're not a bastard. You're not a bad person. It's just okay not. It's just not okay to take your stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah, I
right.
mean you aren't a bastard.
Well, I mean, not a literal bastard, but like there things aren't bad because I sinned. and
Right.
because I'm a sinner. Like, when people treat me bad, it's just not okay. They shouldn't treat me bad.
Right. No, that's true.
And I don't need some person to be like, no, Sky God makes you them treat you bad because you said a bad word or whatever sin they made up.
Right.
So there's that. And then down on motives, um, oh my God, this is so good. And again, this goes into why I think so much about what other people think. Oh, I skipped one, but I'll come back to it. When we do something for others, this bottom paragraph on the first line. When we do something for others, they will instinctively try to discern our true motivations. No, they don't. People don't care.
Hmm.
People just like,
Well, yes and no. If they get the sense that you have ulterior motives, people care about ulterior motives.
no, people care about ulterior motives, but like,
And I'll be honest, I would suspect that a lot of the things that an IBLP member does for other people carries ulterior motives.
oh, absolutely.
And
They
so,
absolutely like this is definitely projecting their own mentality, but like,
well, it's not just that. It's also like that's their experience because they do everything with ulterior motives.
mhm,
Everything they do for other people is with ulterior motives.
sure,
That's what they get. They get people saying why, one trying to figure out what they're trying to get for it.
yeah,
So so like it makes sense to me that they would think this way, that every time someone does you do something for someone, they're trying to figure out why you're doing it. Because
right. So it is a self fulfilling prophecy in that way.
yeah, I would think so.
Um, but like most of the time, when someone does something, like like 99% of the time, when I have made a woman uncomfortable by staring at them, or a person uncomfortable because I'm staring at them, I am not looking at them. I am thinking about some other thing, and just like my eyes are just kind of lost in focus.
Sure.
And you can't look at me and be like, why are you looking at me? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm doing. But you can't attribute the intent of someone's doing. You can surmise that, but also most of the time when you walk by someone or you encounter someone in life and they're doing something different than your normal thing, you just go, huh, and you move on.
Yeah.
Like, your life isn't going to be the salvation witness to the world by your existing. People don't care that much about you. And I think it was toxic to me to believe that people were judging my every action and might be like that I might be causing people to stumble by not thinking about righteousness the whole time. Um, so that was bad. But I earlier in the paragraph about words, when persecution comes, we must analyze what we said, how we said, and what the other person understood us to say.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's actually not bad,
I agree.
but except for one thing, and that is telling about this whole stupid ideology. You need to replace persecution with conflict. When conflict comes, we must analyze what we said, how we said, and what the other person understood us to say.
I wouldn't even say conflict. I would say misunderstanding.
Right. Well, I mean, but they're they're assuming that anything that happens is persecution, that any conflict is persecution.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Which thing, Umbrella?
I assume she was talking about the analyzing what we said when we said it.
I mean,
That is one thing. That is one thing that I do probably still to this day is if something goes, I'll say suboptimal in my life. Um, I always look to see, and I. It's not that I'm accepting responsibility for it,
mm-hmm.
but it's more just like, hey, is there something I can change about the way I do things to keep this from happening again?
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
I do that constantly.
and
Um, and it's a bad thing because it gets you run over.
I don't know that. I think it's a good thing because that's what. So, like, if you study Stoicism, that's what Stoicism is. You accept the things that you can't control, and try to improve the things that you can.
I mean, sure, but it also means that, like, if you accept the premise that conflict is bad, that making people uncomfortable is something that we want to avoid, and you take all this time to think about uh, how your actions are received and how they affect other people, then it will lead you to making yourself small so that you don't cause those problems and cause your brother to stumble.
Oh, I
And
was yeah. I mean, that's not what I was talking about.
I mean, to me, that was the logical conclusion to this stuff.
Sure, I was talking more let's say something at work happens and a project goes south. Even though I may not have been the person that caused it to go south, is there something I can change that would keep the next project from going south? That's what I was. That's
Right,
like the kind of thing
right,
that I'm talking about.
right. And one of the outcomes for that, especially when you accept this ideology and have no sense of self, is that um, say in your work example, um, the thing you one of the things you could do would be to do someone else's job for them,
Sure.
and like you can end up being taken advantage of just by trying to be aware of what other people say.
Wow. Devin has 6 messages coming to you, but there you
It
go.
was, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be in trouble.
No, she says one of 6. So get ready to read. Do you have any more notes on this page?
Da, 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 da. Um, I have a question for you because you're smarter than me.
Stop saying that.
Whatever. So, no man can live or die to himself, right under the church thing. It.
Okay.
What does no man can live or die to himself mean?
Hmm. I don't know. You got me. Because, like, doesn't Paul say I die to myself daily?
Right. I understand dying to yourself, but I don't understand live to myself.
I don't know.
Although living to myself does sound like maybe that's a positive thing we should be doing.
I don't know. Let's see. You got me. I don't. What they're trying to get at, I do not understand.
Umbrella says because God owns you.
Maybe.
Um.
Maybe. Seems pretty.
Uh.
Like I said, I'm not. As far as I can tell, it's just a couple words to add an extra line because they were low on word count, and it's not really saying anything.
Gotta beef up the word score so the professor gives me a good grade. Um, okay. I feel like I have to read what Deviant said, but I'm really uncomfortable because I bet they're saying nice things to me, and that always makes me feel weird because I'm a cult survivor.
Do you have any more on this
Okay.
page? If not, do you have any on page 368 while you read that?
Um,
If not, I'll go ahead and scroll to my
yes,
note.
yes, I do.
Okay.
Um, there's this in the last
Well, no, go
in the
ahead and
last.
go ahead and read the things,
Oh,
and then
okay, okay. Oh, you gave a mama a home so she could have her kittens where they'd be safe. This is what I keep noticing. You're freaking awesome human being, Tail. Nah, I'm a big softie. You're not a bastard. No, my parents are faithful. But bad shit doesn't happen to you because you deserve being treated badly. Bad shit happens because there are bad people in the world, and bad shit happens sometimes. That is true. Shit happens, but there's also another factor. Remember, you believing yourself to be bad and deserving of bad shit happening to you. You haven't been given the tools that you should have been given to protect yourself from being taken advantage of. It's not you failing, others failed you in the past. I'm trying to fix it, doing therapy and stuff. Sadly, now as you've grown up, it's you having to deal with it, and there are many ways to do that. Not all are good, but some are. And those that are oftentimes involve working with a professional and realizing that you can't change the past, but you can still protect the person from the past, still deep inside, scared, shamed, lonely, whatever it or they might be as a grown up, can help with the child you once were and believe in you. Deviant is you're so nice and seeing me and stuff.
that's some good words.
Yeah, Deviant's great. Deviant should have a podcast. You
Well,
want
she
to take
does go
over?
on. She does go on open panels sometimes.
I'm aware. Like it's the best. Hey, we should do that with Umbrella Rebellion too. We should do the seminar with smart people, not just you and me.
Yep, that would maybe sometime. All right, page
So the no, so the last thing I had was
on 367.
yeah. So if the persecuted believer has a grave responsibility, his response to persecution will have a ripple effect. If he chafes, succumbs to bitterness, or seeks revenge, other believers may become infected with his sin. And again, I don't think infected with his sin is a like that's not good theology. Um, but it also
Well,
creates another in group and out group because if the person has a responsibility, so the leaders are supposed to be super Christian and have to be held to another standard, and you got to hide your failings from the people.
right. So this is um
And Panda's right;
this
it
is
does
the
cause
same
self isolation.
this is the same kind of thought process, and so it is endemic to a lot of Christians. This is the same kind of thought process that says 9/11 happened because of the gays.
I mean, it is. Well, okay, what's your point?
I'm just saying. So like I mean, you said you thought you said something about this being something that the IBLP believes, and I'm saying it's no. You said it's bad theology, and I agree it's bad theology, but I don't. It is something that is in broader Christianity. The idea that the sins of uh and I'm using quotes here, the sins of one individual or some subset of individuals will affect the body politic. That's absolutely something Christians believe. A lot of
Yeah.
Christians believe that.
Well, I mean, sorta.
Oh yeah, Hurricane Katrina too.
Well, so sorta. Because I was really hoping that they do it again.
Do
Um,
what again? The
decide
9/11?
that no, decide that
Okay.
like like we took away a woman's right to choose, and we had the worst tornadoes ever.
Nope. Nope. That happened in spite of us doing the right thing.
Like, we're having all these natural disasters. Maybe we shouldn't do these things. But no, like this time, it's just God's will. Ah, he's a jerk. Okay, that's what I got for this page.
All right. You got anything on 368?
Um, I think these are the amount of notes I had for tonight.
Okay. All right.
That is what I've ended up with.
All right. Let's see how I'm about a third of the way through my notes. And we're not. I mean, we've been going for a couple of hours now, so it's probably good time to call it quits. Well, actually, I don't have any notes on this page. If you don't have any notes on this page, we can pick up because it's the end of this section. We can pick up at the beginning of the next section next week, I guess.
Well, you have no notes on this section?
On page 368. Yeah, I didn't have any notes on page 368.
You have no six. Man, I thought for sure you'd get onto the antonyms.
Oh, I was already like on a roll. I was like, man, there's going to be a lot of notes in this page. I'm not going to talk about the stuff we talk about all the time because I'm already getting a lot. And like I ended up with 18 pages of notes. Like,
right, but we can't ignore stuff because they've already done this one bad before.
well, trust me, there's a lot to come.
I know.
There's a lot of stuff, and like just a teaser for you guys coming up. Probably not next week, but the week after that, based on how fast we're going through this book.
Sorry.
It will. No, it's good. This is good. The worst thing I've seen in any of these books, hands down, is coming. So
you're gonna tell them what it is, or they
no,
tune in next time.
Tune in
cliffhanger.
Next time. Yeah, cliffhanger. All right.
So what's your most toxic thing today? And also,
hold on.
Go ahead.
If you guys have any questions in the chat, post them in the chat. We're going to talk about the most toxic thing, and then we'll answer any questions that you guys give us.
That's literally what I was going to say.
Well, tough. I said it first. All right. Let's see.
He always testing in the arguments.
I had two toxic things in this book. And the one of them is, going to be in 2 weeks.
Sure. So you get to do your lesser toxic thing.
Yeah, I get to do my lesser toxic thing this week. And that's the denial of any ill effects that come from persecution and the implicit reframing to any of those ill effects as a failing of the individual. I don't know if maybe that's later on in the book because like they definitely say that at some point that like if you're struggling with handling the persecution, it's because you are doing it wrong, and that's pretty toxic.
Yeah.
And then when coupled with the judgmentalist and perfectionist and othering tendencies of the IBLP, it just becomes really toxic. Their views on persecution. So that's my most toxic thing.
Okay.
What about you?
I was going to ask you a question. Now I don't know. What was it?
What?
Well, I moved my head wrong and the thought fell out. I'm trying to get it back. Sorry. Answer Panda's question.
Well, let's do toxic things first, then we can answer the questions.
Oh, trying to buy time to find my thought, and it's just not coming.
Okay.
I think the most toxic thing is the idea that persecution is good, that struggle is good, not we're going to be okay in these struggles because we're struggling for good, but that the struggle itself, that the problems itself is good.
Yeah.
And like the fetishizing of people hating me validates my existence is horrible. Like I can't I can't I can't imagine any healthy person sitting down and thinking, I want to make my people glory in being hurt. But that's what they do.
Yeah.
And I mean,
If I wanted to like give them the benefit of the doubt, or give someone who believes this or teaches this the benefit of the doubt, it is a like we talked about. It is a strategy for coping with this stuff. It's not a great one,
I mean,
but it
the
is
my,
like if you truly believed all of this, it could help you cope with this these issues. I could see that being the case at least.
I mean, I disagree with that because my secondary toxic thing isn't like necessarily from this because we brought up coping uh, a few times. And one of the toxic things about this is I didn't learn the term coping skills until I was in my 30s
Mm,
because we're just supposed to give it all to God.
right.
And like this is our history and moral philosophy. This was our guideline for how to be people. And it didn't include how to deal with coping skills other than change what you're doing to reduce conflict for the glory of God.
Right.
And we we need more than that. Like like how dare you not tell children how to deal with people being mean to them? That's pretty freaking critical to life.
True. That's definitely yeah.
So that was my runner-up toxic thing, but the fetishizing of suffering is gross.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my toxic thing.
All right. So we've got a few questions came in. We got one. How did from Panda? How did these teachings cause you to look for confirmation of being persecuted? Um, I don't think I don't remember ever looking for confirmation of being persecuted. I was always like I never fit in with kids, and I don't know how much of that is from this and how much of that is just from who I am as a person. Um and so like the way they frame it, being not fitting in, that's part of persecution. And so like I don't I don't remember like looking for it. It just was a thing that happened. And it was just the way people are around me. I don't That's how I always kind of saw it. How about you, Martel?
Um, I don't know. I never picked up on this. Like this part never stuck with me. The part where um I never got the reasoning, the explanation. I just spent my whole life wondering like why do people hate me?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I never got the oh good I'm suffering part of this. Uh, which I guess is good. I don't know.
Sure.
But it's like we were kind of persecuted, but also it was just because we were weird as fuck.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. And I don't know. I have a feeling that I would have been weird anyway. Um. Uh.
I mean, you did grow up in the '80s. That was
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have been. I think there's things about myself that I think I probably would have not been fitting in anyway, no matter
I
what.
disagree.
Um,
I honestly do disagree.
well, we can
You
talk about that offline because I don't want to talk
oh
about it in public because we're talking about stuff that I'm kind of I have ideas, but they're not
sure, sure. No,
diagnosed on
well,
everything.
I'm
So
I no, I'm just saying that a lot of the even the neurodivergencies that you and I both have um is because we do not share the common frame of reference of those people around us. Like one of many examples is that like most people did not, as part of their breakfast ritual with the family, read the proverbs of the day.
sure,
Like that, but that is like I have read the book of Proverbs thousands of times because we read it with breakfast every day. And like that is as much a part of like my formative experience as some people watching Saturday morning cartoons. So, yeah, we didn't fit in, but it's not just because there was something with us. Our experiences were different.
sure. Yeah, we'll talk about it after
Okay.
this. I'll talk about it offline with you.
Okay.
All right, Panda has a follow up question. And do you still struggle with this today? I don't. I don't feel persecuted today at all, personally.
I mean, I do still like in that persecution happens because I'm weird. Um like I probably say at least once a week to somebody like I was raised in a cult. I don't know. Um and usually it's like mostly humorous things like have you seen said movie? Like no, I have not seen said movie. I was raised in a cult. Uh or, what's my favorite classic rock? Um other than if it was on the radio in my brother's Camaro, I have no idea. So like I don't feel like I'm persecuted, but I actually do kind of enjoy that I have a different perspective. Like it is good to have multiculturalism and different points of view, and I find that I am often able to have a unique insight or a unique solution to problems or situations because my upbringing was as different as if I grew up in a foreign country.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. All right,
Um,
you ready for the next question? Because we got
sure, sure.
quite a few actually. All right, Devin asks. Oh, hold on. Did these teachings cause you to purposefully antagonize others? Uh, place yourself in the middle of an argument with a non-believer or with a specific goal to feel or appear to be the victim. Um, for myself, I can say that absolutely did not happen. I I don't remember ever having the temperament to purposefully antagonize others. Now, did I do things that they might have thought was me purposefully antagonizing them? Yeah, probably. But I was never in trying to antagonize anyone. How about you?
Um, I definitely did lots of things where I had made assumptions about right and wrong and would back them up with the Bible and this kind of theology and stuff. Um, so like I was my marriage had many problems and not all of them were mine, but some of the ones that were my problems were because I had this belief in how things were supposed to be that I was just certain of. And so I definitely inserted dumb beliefs into that. Um, but the only place I feel like I intentionally made myself an antagonist was I am retroactively super embarrassed by my short time in school, in public school, because I must have been the worst, most annoying student those teachers had ever encountered.
Oh, telling
Um,
them how they're wrong.
yes,
Oh man, I can't
like
imagine.
I was so convinced that I knew history, and my teachers were trying to like corrupt the students,
Sure.
and just no, the textbook is wrong. That's not why they did this, and just oh my gosh, that like God bless those teachers for not just killing me.
All right. Next question from another one from Deviant. Um, and I think, yeah, she has a follow up to that question. All right. Did you ever feel that the persecution narrative was a comfort when bad things outside of your control happened? Did you, in in case you were treated unjustly, feel better instead of being angered or upset because of the persecution narrative? All right. So for myself, and I'm going to tell a little story about, and I don't even remember this happening. This happened when I was about 2. Um, and I think I might have told this story before on the podcast, but it is a very formative thing, and it informed to this day a lot of the way I see life, and it does affect definitely this persecution narrative. So when I was 2, our dad, who is a professional mover, came home one day and talked about this guy he was moving, who there was this really ornate wine glass with or wine bottle with a very long neck, like 2 or 3 feet long, like it was a super long neck. And our dad said, I can't move that for you. It will break in the truck. And the guy said, oh, okay, no problem. I'll just put it in my car and take it in my car. And it broke while he was putting it in his car. And his response to that was, such is life. Such is life became a motto for me for years. And I didn't remember. I remember saying that word, that phrase. I didn't remember where it came from. And it's it's an ex, it's an acceptance of the things that aren't in your control. Is what that meant to me. I assume that's what it means to most people. If you can't, if it's not outside of your control, you just accept it and you move on. You control the things that you can, that are in your control, and accept the things that you can't. So, like, when bad things outside of my control happened, I just accepted it because it's outside of my control. I didn't feel bad about it that I recall, really. It just was a thing that happened to me. How about you, Martel?
Um, so you were comforted by a lesson you learned from a guy dad did a move for,
Yeah, apparently.
which is fascinating and cool. But I don't remember what the original question was.
Okay. Did these teachings cause you to Oh no, that was the last question. Did you feel that the persecution narrative was a comfort when bad things outside of your control happened? Like, did you feel, like if you were unjustly treated, feel better instead of being angered or upset because of the persecution narrative?
Um, I don't think it was ever a comfort to me until someone else brought it up. This was not internalized.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were moments where uh like when someone was what I considered to be overtly hostile to my faith or Christianity or something, and it would make me sad, and I wouldn't know why people are being so mean. Um, I remember, I think it was Dad explaining that like That's the world. They don't understand. They can't do any better. It's because of Satan's influence. And that did make me feel in that moment that they didn't dislike me. They were just being tricked.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if that's a good thought. Um, to just assume that they were tricked. But I mean, I do that for Christians now.
Sure.
So I guess it is still influencing me in that way. Um, I've just flipped the script and be like, yeah, Christians are going to persecute me because they're stupid and they're tricked by this silly thing they're doing.
Okay.
Okay, what's the next question?
I think that is the last question. Um, got a couple of comments that I want to highlight. So,
Okay,
got Deviant. Think, and this was in response to your thing about teachers. I was the same way with my teachers, and I wasn't even brought up in a cult. I was just brought up in a household ruled with an iron fist by a narcissistic fascist. Not an exaggeration. And I believe that is the case. She's told me a little bit about her family. And then Umbrella Rebellion says, looking back, it goes both ways. The non-cult people were thinking the same thing about us. So,
what do you mean the same thing?
I assume she's talking to about like um uh, the the whole dynamic of being antagonistic and viewing people negatively, like the persecution that you were like, or not, I won't don't want to call it persecution, the reactions you were getting and you were being attributed to persecution. uh it's the I assume she's talking about the same thing. Okay, so how, never mind, she clarified. uh she was saying, looking back, the non-cult people were saying, we're probably looking at us and saying we were the ones being tricked by Satan, which that's probably true. Like, yeah, I could definitely see them thinking uh, Satan was influencing the IBLP, turning it into legalism and not grace.
Yeah, look at you remembering the lingo, man.
Oh
Gofford to
yeah.
be proud. No, he wouldn't. He didn't give a shit.
All right. I think that is it for tonight. It's about 8:30 locally. I appreciate everyone showing up.
Yeah,
Do
this is a good. Go ahead.
you have any last words,
This is.
Martel?
Thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate the active chat. It really makes things better and interactive when folk get to interact with us. It's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll have more of this book. If not, we'll do something else. Thanks, everybody.